Hello again, everyone. It's Jacob with English at the Ready for another short Your Questions Answered video. This one is an informal discussion that follows our weekly topic this week, which was surveillance and control vocabulary. So if you're in our English club, you know a little bit about what we spoke about. You'll remember the vocabulary words. But I'm here with a good friend of mine, Marcus. Marcus is a student studying cybersecurity, so not someone I have to worry about having secret government knowledge. At least I don't. I don't have to worry about what he might or might not say. So we can just have a good conversation about cybersecurity, how they're teaching, the concerns and questions they have, classroom. Marcus, why don't you give us a quick introduction? Who are you? Already introduced a little bit, but fill in the blanks. What did I not say?
Yeah, well, hi everyone. My name is Marcus. I'm a student at George Mason University studying cybersecurity. I'm going into I'm about halfway through my senior year now. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it
All right. So he's senior year.
somehow.
Some, I don't know. I don't know. It feels like it moved quick. I
It,
guess we
yeah,
met 2 to 3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago at most. 2 years ago for sure. And you were studying, and then it's like, boom, you're almost done. um, how do you feel about that?
it definitely makes. I both feel like I just started, and also it's been forever. So I'm
There's a funny
yeah,
feeling you have at the end of school, isn't it? It's like, this happened quick, but also it happened fast, but also it happened slow, but it happened fast, it happened slow. It's this back and forth feeling that you're just not
yeah.
sure. Yeah, I remember that too. It's like anything in life. You're going to have kids one day, maybe. And then you'll think, okay, well, can't wait till they're a little older. And then they get older and you think, wow, that went really fast. And then like the next 2 or 3 years go slow. Oh, wait, those years went really fast. This time and the perception of time seems to never really compute
It's
when you're
crazy.
focused on things. Well, Marcus, we talked again about surveillance and control this week, surveillance and biometrics, digital footprints, all kinds of different concepts in this area. My first question for you is, our digital footprints, how do you think about digital footprints in studying cybersecurity? Is this something that we should worry about? Should we be aware, very aware of our digital footprint, or just accept that we have one and move on with life? I think.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that you should be very aware of it. Whatever you put out there on the internet will always stay out there on the internet. You'll never be able to delete it. Just the way that like everything online works, right? Like if you think about all these data centers that they're building everywhere, every little tiny post that you put online is going to one of these data centers to sit there on a hard drive, and they have all this replication that they do to like back all of that up. And so you make one post and then it gets duplicated and stored somewhere, stored somewhere else, stored somewhere else, stored somewhere else. It keeps going. So everything that you post can and will follow you. So it's definitely something to be very aware of.
How much of that database of this layer after layer of databases are easily searchable? Is there just so much information that it's really too much information to search easily, or do we have the technology? I guess we use Google, and you can type in someone's name or something, and you can easily pull out the information. How easy or difficult is it to extract information from these stored databases?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Like if I have a Facebook account, for example, and I make a post, like that's a public facing post. That's pretty easy to search. But if I delete it, that post is gone publicly, but it's still there in Facebook's databases. Like they keep an archive of all of that. So if someone really wanted it, like they could go to Facebook and find it.
Can you give us an idea of how somebody who really wants it might go about getting it without being too technical, uh, being technical enough, but without teaching someone how to do it or giving someone a good idea? Like, it's like, how do I make TNT? Well, we don't want to tell you how you do this, but here's the general idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of the time what ends up happening is it's like something legal related, right? Like, let's say I'm a bad guy and I made some posts and I delete them. And now, as a part of my trial, they want to dig up those posts. The court systems have the power to I believe it's like called a subpoena or something. I don't know. I'm not aware, but they can contact Facebook and be like, hey, we want this. And then Facebook has to dig up whatever they have and give it to them.
Okay. And Facebook just has access to their own servers, their own data, and they're able to easily find the information about someone. Even if you have deleted it publicly, it's still there on the back end.
In theory, yeah.
In theory. Why do you say in theory?
I mean, I'm not like actually like an expert like
Yeah.
in Facebook, and I don't work there, but like that's kind of like the general teaching is that's kind of behind like how all this stuff works is it's all still there even when you delete it. And these companies, they have backed up databases that they do have access to and they can't go through. So
Right. So in general, company by company, on a company by company basis, they would have different regulations about how they store things and the longevity of the information. Some companies may store literally everything. Others may delete things after some time. Is that right?
yeah, there's a name for the policy that they all have. Like it's like a data retention policy or something
A
like that. And
data
if you dig
retention
through
policy?
their, that's probably not the right word, but it's something along those lines.
Sounds
But
nice.
like most companies, if you do enough digging on their website, you'll find they're like, we hold X number of information for 10 years or whatever number. It's generally longer than you would think.
To your knowledge, um, are they required to post how long they hold data? Is there a law that you're aware of that requires them to do that? Not sure it's okay, but
Yeah.
yes.
I'm not exactly sure. I just know that's kind of like in general a thing, and they'll normally publish. There's probably a law that tells them some sort of number depending on the type of
I
data.
think so too. But then again, it's not something I've really thought about a lot lately.
Yeah, same here.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I think let's just say we have consensus between Marcus and myself that we think that most websites or most services that store your data, they have something written somewhere the public can see it. You may have to look very hard to find it.
Oh, they love burying stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like the EULA. Here's some vocabulary for all of you. The EULA, the End User License Agreement. Marcus,
Yep.
what is that? Find that for us.
It's a very, very, very long document that they don't expect you to read, but it's basically like if you use our service, you agree to these things, and they can kind of pack whatever they want in there.
We're
This is kind
saying
of a
very.
this is kind of a side tangent that we don't really need to go down, but the big thing recently is arbitration agreements that they love stuffing in there.
Okay. And what's an arbitration agreement?
So it's basically like instead, so by using their service, you agree if something happens, you won't sue them. You'll go to arbitration with them, which is basically they pay a judge in essence. You can like do your own side research on this because it's kind of fascinating. But like you go and you sit down, not in an actual court, but what's decided there is legally binding, and you like come up with an agreement. But everything's very favoring the company. People don't like it. But a lot of these
A really good
EULAs
example.
nowadays kind of pack in like at the very bottom or smashed in the middle or somewhere. By using our service, you agreed to arbitration.
So we talked about also suing people and how Americans tend to be a little bit sue happy. This is a way that these companies protect themselves against litigation, against having to go to court, having to spend the money on the process. There's an arbitration agreement where arbitration happens more or less behind closed doors, and it's not something that goes into a courtroom.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
that's my
like
general understanding.
the backdoor agreement type thing. That's good. Yeah, it's really interesting to mention that. That's something I don't think came up this week. We have a few lawyers in the club. We'll be all over that because they've come close. We've not actually talked about those arbitration agreements. Good. Um, let's shift over to talk about biometric data a little bit, or for some of you British English speakers, biometric data. But biometric data in the US, biometric normally. Data. Let's talk about that word real quickly. Marcus, data or data? How do you say it? How do your professors say it?
Oh,
Data science,
it
data
goes
science.
both ways.
Is there
It
ever,
really just kind of depends on their own nationalities and how they've grown up saying it.
okay, you've not had one tell you this is the way you should say it?
No.
Like the Latin singular is datum, and date, I believe, would be the plural in that case. So some people say, well, datum. I've had people actually, I had a professor who did say datum in an argument. He said, oh, you should say datum because it's singular. And I said, That's not English. English is derived from Latin, but it's not Latin. So data or data, generally British English, say data. People using American English, they'll say data. But in the US, Marcus, you hear
It
both.
kind of just goes both ways. I think
So,
I've said both just kind of in passing.
and I'm
So
absolutely sure teaching these lessons this week, I know I've said both, and I can't tell you why I choose one or the other.
yeah,
Just
kind of
depends on how it
happens.
rolls out. Good. Um, So biometric data like fingerprints, eye scans, facial scans, and you can go deeper, genetic data, blood, all of these life metrics, bio data, bio life metric, metrics or measurements. These people worry about because you can't change them right now. We don't have any way that you can really facial recognition. You might argue if you get enough Botox or have facial reconstructive surgery that that will change, and it does. It does. But the other one really can't change at this point in the game. So people wonder if these are really safe. What are your thoughts about the safety and security of biometric data?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's another thing where it's a very deep rabbit hole, and it really just depends on the use case and how that information is stored. So, like for the example of Face ID, like just on your phone, that facial information is stored locally on my phone and it's encrypted.
Ah, so it's locally on your phone,
Correct.
and encrypted means what?
Encrypted, so encryption is basically just a way of scrambling up data. So if someone got into my phone somehow and they like pulled all the information or all of the data off of the hard drive, they wouldn't be able to read it because it's scrambled. And so that's basically what encryption is. So the your facial scan stays on your phone. It never reaches out to Apple's servers for the case of Face ID at least. And
Okay.
so that's one way of protecting it.
And do they do that on purpose? Is it designed that way to limit the exposure of
Yes.
your data?
Yeah. So a lot
That's
of
a
one of the big
question
worries,
we have. Sorry,
yeah. So
that's
one
a
of the
continue, but that's just a very big question we had in multiple classes. Where's our facial recognition, biometric data, all of it stored? Is it on my phone? Is it? Everyone just assumed it was on the servers at the company, so it's locally.
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah. Because when they first were rolling out, I believe it was the iPhone X or the 10 for the first time with Face ID. That was one
Hmm.
of the big things that people were very worried about. And if I remember correctly, they did this whole presentation on how everything was stored locally. Because as soon as you let something reach out over the internet, now you've opened this whole can of worms to how bad actors can intercept that data. Now it's on Apple servers if they have a vulnerability, this, that, or the third. Phones by themselves are generally considered to be fairly secure. So by keeping everything on device, it limits the amount of attack vectors, as we would call them, like or of ways that you could
Vectors being
maliciously gain
ways,
access to it.
vectors are avenues, pathways.
Yeah, exactly. So it basically it limits. There's very few ways that someone bad would be able to get their hands on that facial data versus if it was stored on a server somewhere, which is a big concern.
Okay, and see, you mentioned the word intercept. Intercept is to come in between a transmission of data and take it. So it's meant to go from A to B, and you are like A B. You jump in the middle, or you're the C actor who comes in and you intercept it to use it for yourself. Think about football. Football is the easy example here. They throw a pass, the quarterback throws a pass, and it's meant for the guy down the field, but somebody from the other team jumps and grabs it. That's an interception, right? So when we talk about intercepting data, we had some questions this week about wiretapping. I think almost everyone knows what that is from James Bond films and spy films where they have a little computer chip or something where they slap it onto the back of a phone or inside of a phone or to a telephone wire that they wire tap to listen in to conversations. How could people go about intercepting that data? How could they possibly intercept the transition of your biometric data from your local device, your handheld device, to wherever it goes? in the interim time. How could they possibly intercept it?
Yeah, well, there's a variety of ways of doing it. Just because like the way that the internet works, like from my phone, there's a lot of different jumps between here and the Wi-Fi at my house and the local internet service provider and their network all the way to Apple. There's a lot of points in between where at any point in the way someone bad could grab that. But the good thing is, like we talked about encryption, almost all traffic that goes over the internet nowadays is encrypted. So it would be very difficult, if not impossible, for someone who did intercept that data to unencrypt it without like a whole variety of other things that they would have to do in order to get like the encryption key. You can look up sort of how encryption works and all
We
that.
think about encryption keys, we talk about codes, we think about military codes. I think a lot of people know in, say, World War II, you had the Navajo who spoke their language that could not be translated by the Germans, and the way for them to communicate between battalions and organize attacks and such. Encryption, is it related to code talking and things like that? Is there a code? You said a key
Mhm.
to break encryption or to interpret, I should say, not break, to interpret encryption? Is it the same idea overall?
Yeah, it's kind of the idea. So basically, at surface level, the way that encryption works, it's basically just a very, very fancy algorithm where it takes what's called a key, which in computer terms is just a certain string of ones and zeros at its base. And it takes
Ones
that
and zeros.
key.
That's binary, right?
Mhm.
So another vocabulary word there, binary, ones and zeros.
Yep. So that's binary is how all computers work, all the way down like at their core. So it's an encryption key is fed into the encryption algorithm, and there's a whole bunch of different algorithms out that are out there, and different tasks or different like use cases will use different algorithms for a variety of different reasons. But it randomly will generate this key, and when you take your file that you want to be encrypted and you encrypt it with that key, the only way to unscramble all of that information is to have that key.
Interesting. So just in basic, that's how encryption works.
Hmm.
Not entirely sure I understood as well as you just described it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense to me now. I understood kind of what it is, and like I said, I've always equated it to code language, like people talking to each other in code that has to be interpreted by a certain, if the upside down or backwards S means, hello, or if it means goodbye, something simple like that. That's really interesting. Every encrypted file or encrypted
Packet would
word
be the right word going over
packet
the
would work.
internet. Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking when you send data over the internet,
Mhm.
over a network, packets of data. So the packets, individual packet, encrypted, and it needs, or is it like a series of packets?
My understanding of the internet isn't that technical, but
Okay,
I know like it's all kind of
not entirely
transmitted
sure.
in blocks and then reassembled on the receiver's side. So then once it's all back together to unencrypt that, you need the key.
Okay, so it's on the receiver side. They need the key to be able to unencrypt that block. That's interesting. Okay. Some of you in the club, I know we have some data science people in the club. Not just data science, but we have not CS exactly, computer science people, people who would have the answer for this. If any of you know how to describe this in English, please write us a message, and I'd like to feature that. I might even talk to you sometime about how the internet works. That could be another interesting,
That would be a good one. Yeah.
because, I mean, heck if I know how it works. I remember when they started talking about the cloud, and it said Microsoft Cloud, like they have like a cloud satellite or something in the sky. It looks like a cloud. What are we talking about? All right, good. So biometric data, I think that's everything. I think I missed anything. Is there anything kind of
There's one more thing that I was going to add. So
good?
we talked about packets potentially getting intercepted. That's a pretty it's possible, but it's pretty low risk because of all that encryption. Where my biggest concern would be is with companies as we move towards more and more uses of biometric data, like thinking of like just physical security of a building. Like Some places use like your palm print or like your fingerprint or like an iris scan or something like that. And if you think they all have to somewhere be storing that locally or in their cloud environment or whatever like that.
So
And
you can basically, you would probably say you can trust your device,
mhm.
daughter. If you've never seen my daughter, that was her first Halloween. Yeah, she's that. So like, but on my local device, generally it's safe because it's difficult to de encrypt.
Unencrypt.
Unencrypt. Thank you. I think that didn't sound right.
I said de-encrypt several times too, so you're
Okay.
good.
Again, we make mistakes with these prefixes all the time, but we understand because we know the prefix, we know what it means. Always get the gist of what the person's saying, and we often don't even think about it. But unencrypt. So what was I saying? My phone generally safe because it takes a lot of work to unencrypt what's on my phone, get access to what's on my get the unencryption key or to get the key. Now I'm mincing words a little bit because I'm back on point. But it's safer on the phone than it probably is in businesses or buildings, apartments who use this technology. Because let's say I'm a hacker and I want access to people's data. It would be a pain in the neck to target an individual person, unless that's the person I needed. Then okay, that's fine. But to target individual people, it would be much easier or much more worth my time target corporation or target a building or to target specifically something like we ever I have seen these in China where they use a fingerprint scanner on a laundry machine in a building.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, I've seen it. It's not, I don't know how common it is, but I've seen it. And my thought with that was that just seems really unsafe because this, I can't imagine laundry facility has great internet security or great security system security protecting their database for these scans. Does that you understand what I'm saying? Like, does logic
Yeah, no,
make sense?
absolutely. A lot of times
It's
with
just I'd not really
random,
thought about
like,
this.
small applications like that, it will that laundry machine will be connected to the internet, and the manufacturer of that laundry machine has, like, a central database. So when you buy
Okay.
their laundry machine, it comes with all of that, so it kinda just works. But
Okay.
that makes it an even bigger target because now there's this huge database of all of this biometric data that, like you said, we can't
Okay.
change. So if someone, an attacker, gets into that, they now have your biometric data and there's nothing you can do about it. And an interesting example of this that happened recently was with 23andMe. Their database
I
of
did that like 3 or
people's
4 years ago.
yeah,
Whoops.
so their
There.
whole database of all of these people's like genetic histories and stuff got hacked. I don't know the extent of it. I remember it was pretty bad. So that's kind of a little side tangent that you could go on. This is like a real thing that has already happened. And like people's whole like genetic histories are now out there and there's nothing that you can
Good
do to
point.
like
There's not
if a database, if
anything.
your passwords get leaked, like it sucks and it's annoying, but you can change your passwords. Biometrics,
Change my
you're set.
genes.
Yeah.
I often joke and say, I don't know who do they ever say who hacked 23andMe?
Oh,
Was
I'm
it
sure you
a
can look it up.
national job or was it, I don't know. I think when you talk about this a lot with people in the US, just generic conversation, they will say, oh, the Chinese hacked us. That's just often what we say. And often it's not true. It could be anybody literally anywhere that did it. But I always joke when my friends say, oh, the Chinese hacked 23andMe. I say, I lived in China for 2.5 years. So I I used scans there and everything else. There are probably little Jacobs running around. Joking, of course. This is just a apocalyptic scenario type talking, but um, always fun to joke and jest. But yeah, 23andMe, that was a huge data leak, or not data leak, huge data
Database.
breach.
Yeah.
Be a better word there, data breach. And yeah, I mean, I potentially could have been or could be, and who knows how. I'm not even sure what could happen with this. Why would I care that my genetic data was stolen in some way? What could they do with it that might affect me in at any point in my life? Maybe not current technology, but are you aware of any future technology that we're leaning
Yeah,
toward?
well,
Right?
even currently, I believe there have been a couple documented cases of this too. One of the big buyers for information like this are health insurance companies. And what they're doing is they're taking that 23andMe database and they're looking back at your family history. And they can tell based on looking back, oh, you're more likely to get cancer or this, that, or the third. And so they're hiking people's rates because they know that that person specifically is more likely to be higher risk to them as an insurance company.
So glad I asked this because again, I mean, it makes perfect sense, and that's just you don't want to think about it that way, but that's how it is. That's how it is, and I should not say anything else about that. We need to transition to something else before I get myself in trouble. But very interesting. And yeah, thank you for all of that. That's actually very enlightening for me individually. And imagine, given a few questions, we have one person in the club who is a heavy conspiracy theorist and wonderful person, but he is not shy about conspiracy. I think it's real. He's going to love that. He's going to love hearing that. Marcus, let's change gears a little bit again. Double check and make sure. Yeah, that's okay. Let's change gears a little more and move into a short discussion about mass surveillance. Um, like location tracking. We all know that our phones prompt us when we download any app. It asks us if we want to allow it to know my location. The words are not probably exact, but that's the idea. I can allow it, I can disallow it, or I can allow it only when the app is being used.
Mhm.
How safe is this sort of thing? How important is it for me to not allow these apps to track my location? Is it okay? Is it somewhat of a problem? Is it how worried are you about?
Yeah, I mean, it all varies app to app, and it just depends on how much you trust the people that made said app, right? For something like Waze, I use that all the
Okay.
time.
What
But
is Waze for the people who don't know?
Waze is just like I can punch in where I want to go, and it's basically Google Maps or Apple Maps, but it knows all of the traffic, like, and so it'll help you find the most optimal route. So
It tends to
that's
be the
one
most
way
up
that
to
it's
date
using your
travel app
location.
or travel map.
Yeah. So Waze and other maps that know the traffic, what they're doing is they're watching the locations and the speed of everyone that's moving. And if they notice that in this one area on this one road, all of the people that are connected are not moving very fast, and they know there's traffic there. So that's kind of like an interesting use case. Like I don't hate that. But there's also like the question of, well, what else are they using this data for? Yeah,
What
well,
else?
with the advent of AI nowadays, like, you can almost bet that they're using a lot of this to train various different AI models and this, that, and the third. So really, it just depends. Like, the question I always ask is, am I gonna use this app that's asking for my location data, or does it just like not matter at all? And so I can just tell it no. It's like maps apps and stuff like that, or like I have like a little radar app. Like the radar app, like I know how to find where I am on the map, so that doesn't need to know where I am. But like Waze or something like that, then I'll generally allow that. So my general thing is just try to be mindful of it. It's all terrible, but you may as well.
It's all terrible, but just be mindful.
Yeah.
Good. Do you feel like the government is watching everywhere you go? Do you feel like the government, I am asking specifically the US government, do you feel like they are following you as you go around town or around the US? Or do you feel like they are watching you?
Not actively. They can, going back to subpoenas, they can subpoena your historical location information from all these various map companies and this, that, and the third. So like I feel like if they needed it, then they could get it, but actively, like I doubt someone's sitting at a desk watching me specifically.
When they store all this data, it's more of like aggregate data storage, not that they're just tracking you individually and they have a list they can go to and they can easily follow you. It's a little more involved than that. They could technically follow or track your locations based on where you're pinging, and they can access historical data, but it's not like they're doing it right active.
Yeah, well, what's interesting, Google Maps rolled out a recent feature, and I can tell you exactly what it's called because I know I had to go turn it off. It is, let me see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Oh, yeah, timeline. That's what it is. So if you enable timeline in the Google Maps app, basically Google Maps tracks your exact location everywhere you go. and you can go in there and be like, "Where was I on this day at this time?" And it'll tell you.
Do that. And I think my wife, we got in the car today and we were driving just out in the country from here, not too far away. And it gave us our home address when we were leaving. And I said, "Wait, did you enter the address or did you set this up as part of the trip?" No, it just does that. So like
Yeah,
it is tracking.
they
It
all do
knows
that.
where
So I
I'm
don't know if
likely
you
to go.
noticed, if you have Find My set up for any of your stuff, like I have a couple of random air
Check
tags
on
on things, it knows without me telling it where I live.
it. I'm not sure I want it to know all that about it. It threw me off a little bit when it popped up on our trip computer on our car. It's like,
Mhm.
well, wait a minute. How did
Oh
it
yeah, it
know?
knows.
Which is okay, that's kind of neat. I said, no, that's not neat. That's too much. I don't want it. Kind of the same, along the same lines, not so much with tracking, I guess, but I have an Alexa device over it.
Mhm.
They listen to me
A lot.
a lot. Oh, okay. So we've been joking about this a bit this week, and if I asked not Siri, I'm sorry, Alexa, are you spying on me? All right, cybersecurity man, what does that mean? What did she just
Well,
say to me?
so up front, all of these companies are always going to say, "Oh, we love your privacy," like exactly what Alexa said.
Yeah,
But I don't know if you've ever been like this happens to my parents all the time. They'll be browsing Facebook talking about something, and then 5 seconds later, that's all they're getting ads for.
every day. I teach the same lesson the entire week, right? 17, 18 times now, I think. And by the end of every week, every single week, I'm getting ads on Facebook and elsewhere related to our lesson topic. Like this week, I'm getting security cameras and security systems, and ADT is a famous home security brand, and they set up home security systems at your home. And I'm getting all kinds of ads for these things. And I think, why? And I go, and they say she's not listening.
Oh, she
That's a
is.
lie.
And when your phone asks, like Facebook, for example, when it asks for permission to use your microphone, if you say yes all the time,
Huh?
it's listening.
Okay, so yes all the time means it's going to listen, and it's probably better to turn it off.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
I
Um,
basically for on the in the privacy settings of my phone, I disable microphone unless the app is open pretty much across the board.
Little word of advice there. Cybersecurity future expert. Not an expert yet, but Marcus is a incredibly smart person. So I expect him to be leading cybersecurity initiatives in the future. What your actual aspirations are with it. Let's turn it to you for a moment. What is it you want to do when you are studying cybersecurity? What do you see your pathway being to wherever it is you want?
Yeah, well, at the moment, I've been following pretty closely a lot of the trend towards the cloud. And
Mhm.
so I think where I'm pretty closely after college going to end up is with cloud security and what do we do to secure cloud applications. So that's pretty near range, I think.
So cloud being the extension of the original Microsoft cloud. I think that's the first time we heard cloud as consumers in general was the Microsoft cloud store. I think they were the first to do it.
Yeah, they pushed it really hard. Yeah, they're one
Yeah,
of
I just
the
remember their branding all over it. And cloud isn't branded Microsoft Cloud, right? The cloud
no.
is just a form
Yep.
of data sharing, data
So
storage.
all cloud is, so if you think 5, 10, 15 years ago, if I have a server, it's sitting in a room somewhere, like in an office building, you need print server, some networking stuff, and it's all server racks in your building. All the cloud is those server racks are in Microsoft's data center now. And you go on to your web browser and you connect to their little cloud portal and all your servers are right there. That's really all that it is.
It's like more of a
And
proximity kind of thing. The cloud is a proximal set or series of servers.
yeah, basically. And so the whole advantage of it is you don't need to buy this really expensive server to sit and now you have to maintain it and you have to run all these updates on it and this, that, and the third, and it takes up space in your building. Now Microsoft handles all of that and you just say, hey, I need a Windows server, and you pay them $5, $10 a month. then you get a Windows server instead of paying thousands of dollars for one that sits in your building and uses your
And so it's
resources.
overall much more cost effective,
It's
just
very
on
cost.
hardware. And how about for Microsoft? Is it cost effective for them overall too?
Oh yeah, they're rolling in cash. Cloud is like I think their number one thing right now. If you look at all of their sources of revenue,
Oh, is it really? I
it's
haven't looked at
definitely up
Microsoft's
there.
source of
Yeah.
revenue in a while. That's interesting. Okay, because I mean, a lot of companies use it. A lot of companies, individuals. We all know we have storage for our photos and music and movies and things on the cloud, but companies store massive amounts of data, or even store your data in the cloud. Maybe, yeah, they store like
Yeah,
your
basically
user
everything.
data.
So Netflix is run in Amazon's cloud, which is called AWS. So the cloud runs applications too. It's not just storage. So it's literally physical servers that are just sitting in Amazon's data centers are running whatever Netflix's application is. And so it has all of the movies, it has all the TV shows stored there, and it hosts the web application or whatever. So when you go to netflix.com, you're connecting to an Amazon data center that has Netflix's stuff in it.
Yeah, and that's kind of more or less what I think expected you to say there. I know a couple of students this week, and I know other people, and not locally, my family and such back in North Carolina. When talking about the cloud, I feel like a common misconception of the cloud is that it's a series of satellites storing data. So the data is stored in outer space, which the logic I think does make sense. Oh, a cloud is above us somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
instead of being in a building somewhere. But the reality is it's in a building somewhere. Not, and it's not in the satellites at all. They're not built for data storage.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Even satellites that might be spying on us in some capacity, which may be likely, unlikely, I don't know. But even if they are spying on us or viewing us in some way, they would send their data to a cloud server, to a storage facility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
And one of the
interesting.
other cool things about cloud too, talking earlier, we talked about replication. Like if I make a post on Facebook, it's replicated to a bunch of different places. The cloud, what's cool about it is like we live in the United States. There's Netflix here in the US. If I live in Europe or whatever and I want to go to Netflix, it would take a really long time for my network traffic to go all the way from Europe all the way to the US and back to try to watch my movie or whatever it is. So what's cool about the cloud is the engineers at Netflix, they make Netflix the product and they put it in Amazon's cloud and it duplicates itself all across their data centers across the whole world. And so what cloud allows you to do is have really low latency, really fast connections anywhere in the whole world.
So that's how that works. It's not just coming from one central location,
Correct.
broadcast everywhere. It's being broadcast kind of from everywhere all the time
Yeah,
as
so
it
whenever I
replicates.
go to netflix.com, what the web browser is doing is it's going and it's finding the closest like data center that has Netflix and it's connecting me to that. So that way all like my connection's always as fast as it possibly can be.
That's really interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm visualizing it a lot better with the way you've described it, but I'm not sure I visualized that well. Really interesting.
Yeah, so that's one of the big advantages of the cloud because the way that you used to have to do that in the past is Netflix would have to go build their own data centers all across the whole world and they would just be Netflix data centers. Or like there'd be Netflix servers somewhere, and that'd be crazy expensive. Versus now they can just pay Amazon however much it costs to run their VMs, like virtual machines, which is
Virtual
what
machine.
servers are in the cloud. And they just say, "Hey, I want this in these regions across the world," and Amazon says, "Here's your bill."
And let me just throw, my age, 42, born in 1983. We grew up going to Blockbuster Video to rent movies, and then Redbox, because Redbox was so much easier than Blockbuster. And then Netflix came along, and we don't have these physical locations where you have to go. I mean, there are a few of them because some people prefer. It was a thing going and taking a girlfriend, Marcus. Your age, I would take my girlfriend. We'd go for a walk through Blockbuster. Hey, baby, you want to pick out a movie and hang out and watch it for a while? I was not that, nothing like that. It was probably more like, hey, baby, you want to watch a movie? It was something like. But yeah, it's amazing to me to think about my life in my teens and then think, okay, we had all these locations where Blockbuster was everywhere, and we thought it was everywhere. And then you just expand the capacity, what Netflix is. We certainly didn't see that coming. Probably not until I was probably 18, 19 years old when you started to. It was very slow to stream videos. We could watch, we watched nonsense. YouTube was full of just the stupidest but most wonderful, awful bits of humanity. But that's what it was, and we were lucky if our video would buffer well enough to watch a complete video all the way through. Usually we'd wait, buffer for a little while, we'd watch 3 minutes, and it would buffer again. We watched 3 more minutes, and there was always a skip and everything. It's just amazing to me to what how Netflix actually has virtual presence.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Last question I'll drag you into is about more about mass surveillance, mass surveillance level of cybersecurity. We talked a bit about facial recognition technology. We talked about biometrics earlier, but the application of facial recognition technology in security, in surveillance, specifically surveillance systems. What is your feeling about the use of AI, facial recognition, and surveillance? Let's say in the US context right now. How is it being used here? And do you think it's a problem? Think about this. Think
Yeah.
it's completely safe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's kind of two sides to this coin. From a security perspective, like if I'm in charge of securing a building, it's the coolest thing ever, right? Because, like, let's say there's someone that we've determined we don't want in our building for whatever reason. Yeah, you can go into your security system if it has this type of facial recognition, and you can say, hey, that person, here's their name, ping me whenever you see them. And if they ever walk anywhere near your building where there's a camera with facial recognition technology, you'll just get an alert on your phone and say, this person is right here, right now. And it can track them wherever they go. So from a security perspective, that's super, super cool. From a privacy perspective, that's like, whoa.
It's like, wait a minute. I'm going to go to the restroom. Are you following my pings to the restroom? Now I feel like you're there with me. I
It
went
can do
to,
that.
and you know where this is. I went to a local church recently where they scanned me from my head down to my kneecaps. It was the weirdest picture of myself I've ever seen. Head, face, whatever, face down to kneecaps. And I wondered, okay, well, I bet they're using facial recognition. You don't have to tell me if that's true or not, because you might have specific knowledge there that I don't want to get you in trouble with. But that was my feeling, was now they can kind of ping and follow me around if they want to. I'm not saying they did, but I did get a weird text while there at one point, and I think you know that. So we don't have to talk about that anymore, but now I'm thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean,
They
these
could
types of
potentially have been
technologies,
watching me everywhere.
yeah, they are a thing and they are deployed in all sorts of different applications. And
And
they're
in a
just like,
closed area like that, it's really that
yeah,
easy. Security team could watch a person come in and say, that's a funny looking character there. And we're gonna follow him. Just follow him digitally. Not, well, I guess you could follow the camera, move around as he goes. But is it like a map of the facility and you watch a red dot or a dot? I mean, what is the display for that sort of?
yeah, I mean, there's a variety of different companies that do this type of thing, and they all kind of look a little bit different, and you can set them up to do either of those things that you just described. It kind of just depends on your security team and how you want to go about doing it.
Okay, so both are possible, really.
Yeah.
And is there any way for you to which kind of system they're using?
Not easily, no.
Not easily. I figured not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought, well, okay, yeah. Next time I walk into building in downtown DC, I want to look around. Okay, how are they tracking? You know, there aren't a lot of buildings. Do a lot of the buildings in government buildings, do they use facial recognition technology? Your knowledge?
Oh, I'm sure they do. Yeah, I'm sure they've got the
How
whole
do they
kit.
get the data? Is it for you? Is it something that's like, again, because some of them you do have to check in with the time and you register to be able to go. And is that how they basically would track you throughout the facility? They would say,
Yeah, I
okay,
mean, this is where I
take
have a
them
little
out
bit
live.
less of an understanding, but I would imagine that that is, right? They've gotta build up their database somehow. 'Cause for like, especially for privacy reasons, I doubt that there's like a central database that all of these link back to. So I would imagine each facility probably has its own thing, or each network of facilities. Like if this is this government entity,
So
so
just
all
say
of their
like the
buildings have their
Smithsonian in that case, because that's a big
yeah,
series of museums, government museums. They might have a database for their group.
yeah.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that, but again, talking to you, it's like, well, we go sometimes, and I have to give them my name, my children's name, that, and you give them a little bit of data. That data might be enough to link to you. Maybe they do have an idea of where you're going, because some of them it seems weird. Like, why am I giving you this information? Security,
Mhm.
interesting. And then we have countries like China who use facial recognition and AI, or at least the American fear is that if we travel to China, we are going to be recognized by cameras everywhere we go. Someone is going to be following us like a little parrot on our shoulder the entire. Is that reality? Do you think that with given how many people are walking around, is it reality that a server or system could handle tracking that many individuals with precision?
It absolutely is, and I'm on my phone trying to Google the name of a company that's trying to roll that out in the US right now.
I know I've heard about this. The possibility of, I don't know where it would be implemented, but I know that there's been an argument against it.
There
This is a
has,
big
yeah.
breach of
So
privacy.
I just found it. It's called Live View Technologies, and it's those exact types of surveillance cameras that you just described. It's so the government can use their services, and they put these security cameras all around, like a city, for example. So right now, online, there's a big YouTuber called Louis Rossmann, and he's located in Austin, Texas, and he's been a huge advocate against these cameras there. So you can go watch his like little YouTube series on
Say his
that.
name one more time. Louis
Louis Rossmann.
Rossman. Okay,
Yeah.
Louis Rossman.
He does use a little bit of language in his videos, so just
A
kind of be
little
aware
bit
of
of,
that.
we talk about the word or colorful language. Yeah.
Yeah.
He might say some bad words here and there,
Yeah.
but
So, but if you want to do your own side research, you can kind of go down that rabbit hole. But the gist of it is there's this company that's called Live View Technologies, and they want to put all of these cameras all around cities, and then they can track you, they can know where your car is, how fast it's going, what your license plate says, and it all links up with like the police. And so it people are really against it because it kind of gives this view like that the it's like a surveillance state, like it's a
yeah,
police
Big Brother.
state.
Big
Yeah,
Brother's watching.
it's
It's
literally exactly what
helicopter,
this
right?
is.
Helicopter brother. My daughter at lunch did one. I have three daughters, two who are, one's 10, one's 8, oldest one and the middle one, and they are always, as you would expect, going back and forth with each other. The older one, always asks the younger one about going to the bathroom and all kinds of like parental type questions. And the 8-year-old, or she's 9 now, excuse me, pardon me, little girl, you're 9 years old. Um, she turned to her and she said, "Helicopter sister." She goes, "Helicopter, helicopter." You know that popular meme with the
Mhm.
helicopter song. I just started laughing. I couldn't contain it. It's hilarious. So it's like helicopter brother around you all the time. Big Brother. We talked about Big Brother back in 2001 after the 11 attacks on the World Trade Center. This is where I do feel like we saw lots of changes. This is anecdotal. Again, not a researched time period, but I really do feel like a lot of this type of surveillance technology began to be talked about after those attacks 2001 because we saw big changes in a very big way to our security system at airports, elsewhere, and it's just pretty much snowballed with the technology for the past 5 years, roughly 24.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just interesting. Like people have always talked for a long time here in the US about China and all these AI cameras and this, that, and the third. But it's here now. And like there are companies that are actively doing it. And this live view technologies, these cameras are in some cities across the US, like right now.
Do you know any cities where they are?
No, but you can
Out of
Google it.
curiosity,
If I
we can
Google the
Google
link,
it.
I
Yeah,
could find
that's
it.
okay. We'll Google it. We'll check it later. That's really interesting because I've been saying to a lot of students, and we have quite a few students who are either Chinese living elsewhere or some Chinese living in Hong Kong or Taiwan, and then lots of Hong Kong. Well, and I always say, look, I lived in China a couple of years, and I just got used to cameras being around. The AI wasn't as advanced at that point. So there probably wasn't really that much AI recognition. There was a level of it, I know, but it wasn't widespread or everywhere. But look, I said, look, in the US coming too, like I don't know, I can't tell you where these cameras are. And now I know, say the company's name one more
Live
time.
View Technologies.
LiveView Technologies. That these cameras exist and that it is something that's on the table for governments to invest in and people to discuss whether we should allow this to happen or not. Whether we have a voice in the US, but sometimes things happen without us really knowing where it's happening. We don't have a chance to say anything. Am
Yeah.
I
Well,
wrong?
that's what's happening with the whole Lewis Rossman story.
Okay.
His city council was trying to they had a meeting lined up. It was like a public meeting that they didn't really announce until the very last second. And they had all these representatives from Live View Technologies that were going to be at this meeting to try to sell them on this camera. And they didn't tell the public about it till like last minute. And then when they found out that the public was really mad and all these people were going to show up, they canceled it and then like pushed it off and like didn't announce that date. And it's this whole thing. So
Things go in the US. We do have freedom of speech. We have a right to protest. We have a right to discuss things. Also, you could argue companies have a right to just tell us, just like these litigation clauses or these arbitration clauses in user license agreement. They may be some of them are 20 pages long.
oh yeah.
Yeah, you don't read them. You have to scroll to the bottom to have the accept button highlighted. You can click it and move past it. But most people go to the bottom, accept, never read it, right? And that's the type of situation where they would with bills, government legislation, a lot of times you have a long legislation or a long bill that's being written or presented. Somewhere in there, tucked somewhere, there's something about these cameras that maybe somebody who really pays attention catch, lucky. Otherwise, miss it, passed into law, and the cameras are there and we don't know. And then we realize, oh, wait, hey, what are these cameras here? Oh, wait, but I don't like that. Well, too bad. We can still argue it, you could say, but once it's there, it's types of not impossible, very difficult. That's good. This has been really interesting. Um, do you have again any final thoughts or anything that came to mind based on different topics we've covered here? Anything you feel like you didn't say or had further thoughts about? I'm trying to think if I have any little questions.
I had a couple little things, and then you asked the question, and now they're gone. So
Sorry. I do the same thing myself. I jump from thing to thing, and I think there were a couple of main questions I skipped, but I think we dug pretty well into the meat of the matter.
yeah, I think we said a lot, and it'll be interesting. Like if any of y'all watching are interested in any of these topics, like go kind of do your own little side research on this. Like a lot of what I've learned, we've learned some of it in school, but a lot of it's just kind of from doing my own research and keeping tabs on things online. So it'd be
Oh, let me ask you one more question.
Mhm.
How good is ChatGPT? So if they were to do research and they were to ask
Mhm.
ChatGPT questions about this, could they trust information that they get from
I
ChatGPT?
always, with any AI, I always trust but verify because their biggest problem is that they will confidently lie to you.
I like that.
Like they
They
will
will
tell you something
confidently
that is
lie to you.
false in such a way that like they will convince you that they are right and you are wrong. So anything that it gives you, always just give it a quick Google and don't look at the AI summary because then it's just AI and AI. Like go actually like double check.
That's key too, because the first thing you will see at the top is an AI summary. You want to make sure you go to real resources, real articles, make sure that it's something valid before you
Yeah.
believe it.
Because even the AI summary will it'll show you its sources and it'll tell you something that is just not in any of those sources. So
I had that today. Actually, I was looking up something and I clicked on it and said, "There's nothing about this anywhere in here." It highlighted a word and said it was about a specific term, and that term, when I would do Control F, find, function. I couldn't find anything related to that word in the
Yep.
entire web page. Like, why? What's happening? Yeah, be careful. Make sure you verify. Verify anything you read on AI, but it can be a good way to wet your whistle, I often say,
Oh,
with something
absolutely.
new.
Yeah. I use it as a jumping off point. This is probably not a good thing to say since you're a teacher, but I use it as a good jumping off point for like research assignments. Like if I get an assignment in school that's like, hey, research this thing, you can go to like an AI or whatever and say, hey, help me find articles on this thing.
It
And
helps you
it'll
get
give you a
started
list and
a
you
lot of
have to
times.
double
I
check
mean,
all the articles, but it'll get you started.
yeah. And I've told people in our club that if you ask me to create a lesson about a specific topic, just on the fly, I will often, right while talking to you, I may go to ChatGPT, type in a question, and get a list of things to help me just organize my thoughts on the fly. Because sometimes ask an off the wall question, maybe I do know the answer, but wait, okay, we're talking about something entirely different. Okay, well, I can read a very quick summary, and then okay, now I can direct myself of
Hmm.
this. Like I have an idea of what I'm talking about. Otherwise, that doesn't link.
Yeah. That I feel like is kind of what it's good for nowadays. So some people try to
I
use
like
it
that
to
you.
do too much, but it's to me, it's just a good jumping off point, but always trust but verify.
It's a tool. Like
Yeah.
most other things like it. It's a tool. Don't let it do the work for you. Learn how to do the work yourself, but it's a tool to help you do your work some faster or more accurately.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And where a lot of people get in trouble around me at school is they type the exact assignment into ChatGPT and they just copy paste its output and submit it. And that's number one, you're doing nothing to learn yourself. Number two, it's super obvious when you do that because these AIs all write the same. Like if you read it, like you can tell. And then also number three, half the time they're wrong. So you should,
I wish I could remember exactly what she said, but I saw a really interesting YouTube video earlier today about teachers using AI. And there was a teacher saying, look, we need to embrace AI. And I thought it was really interesting what he was saying, kind of like math. With math, we had to embrace graphing calculators. Before graphing calculators, the math we had to do by hand. They had to learn how to do it a different way. And then graphing calculators made it really simple to output lots of to answer a lot of problems very quickly. That and AI is kind of a similar thing. It helps you to think through or generate or even write a paper. But what we can do in the classroom, yeah, sure, use AI in the classroom. And then instead of having them submit home or the next day after being home, generate it in the classroom, have them rewrite it and work with it in the classroom to improve it. So you're teaching them to improve what's been AI generated. So they have a framework and the impetus or the what do the weight. The weight is on them to make it better, to make it sound the way the teacher wants it to sound. Whatever those guidelines would be. She went on and said a lot, but it was really interesting because I've not heard anyone about AI. Most people say, "Oh, AI, it's taking the place of our brains, essentially." But I thought what she said was really intelligent because we're using a tool, a technology that is there to help us, and we're using our brains to improve it. So we're still doing a lot of work, but we're incorporating this tool into our lives
yeah.
because
And
we're
I feel like
probably going
that's
to have to.
yeah, you are. I mean, the cat's out of the bag with AI. It's not going anywhere. And so for better or for worse, we're all going to have to learn how to work with it and how to deal with it. And to be frank, a lot of the way that the education industry is the wrong word, but a lot of the way that like education is responding to it has been really unhelpful because they've just been AI bad. And if we catch you using AI, you get a zero, you're in trouble, this, that, and the third. So I think what that teacher's saying is really helpful. And that's a lot of different schools and everyone, like they're going to have to figure that out one way or another soon. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
just this semester at school, there's been a tone shift where like last semester it was AI bad, you use it, you get a zero. This semester we're starting to see a little bit more of that thinking where they say you are allowed to use it as a jumping off point, but you need to tell us and you need to like disclaim it and like say which pieces of your assignment are AI generated and like how you got there. So it's kind of,
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. Because, like you said, AI is there to stay, not going anywhere. And we're going to have to learn how to live with it and use it appropriately. Since it came along, I've always been of the mindset that it's a very useful, that has an appropriate and inappropriate. And I tell
yeah.
my students all the time, you can use AI if you want to understand an English word or the etymology of an English. Ask ChatGPT by all means, because it's going to give you an answer. You may have to verify it, right? But it's going to lead you down a path. You can research that very easily. It doesn't take much time. But like you said, always verify and don't rely just on it.
Mhm.
Appropriate use, inappropriate use. Use it as a tool to help you. Don't use it to replace your own output. Especially English at the Ready students, when you're preparing for any part of the IELTS exam, do not get comfortable having ChatGPT generate essays for you, because you will not remember how to write that way on the test. You will not. You need to write yourself. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm stressing this point because we've had a couple of IELTS students recently who would use ChatGPT. I'm not saying that any of you used it in place from writing, but it just made me think it's really important we learn to write well, because if we trust ChatGPT and trust what we're reading and think that we can, oh yeah, I can do this, it will save time, and I'll remember how to write this way on the test day. Well, the test prompt is different what you with AI generated responses, and now you're stuck. What are you going to write? Can you structure an essay? Knowing how to structure an essay is key, and then being able to write it yourself and being comfortable doing it is another. Anyway, just a couple of things that came up recently. Marcus, I appreciate you sitting and talking with me this evening.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how long this would go. It was meant to be just a very short, informal chat, but I really appreciate you and giving such good responses. It's going to help us think about this in our context and hopefully answer some questions that my students had this week. And if you have any questions further in our chat, you can ask it there, or the video, I don't really use YouTube aside from being a data dump. It's where I dump the video so I can embed it elsewhere. You could leave a comment there also if you have a question. And if it's for Marcus specifically, I can always, Marcus, don't mind that, do you?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to answer anything you send my way.
Yeah, any questions you have, sure you voice it and we'll see if we can find an answer. Marcus, again, thank you so much. And I'll see you again soon.
Yeah, I'll see ya.
All right. Good night.
Yeah, see ya. Good night.
Everybody else, we'll see you next time in class. See you soon.